Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Faithful Dogs podcast. This is a Monday night edition, special Monday night show. The reason why is we finally have a Deshaun Watson decision, and it's time to finally talk about our feelings on the situation. This is going to be a one-time thing, and after that, like we've agreed as a show, we are going to move on and talk football. But I am Tyler Johnson. I am joined by the boys, Zach DeFranco, Jack Robinson. Gentlemen, it's been quite a day. How is everyone doing?
Down with the Browns.
I'm tired, man. I
Down
woke up
with
at
the
7
Browns.
in the morning, and I couldn't fall back asleep because I knew it was coming at some point. So I just stayed up, and
What?
it's been what?
You didn't go to bed?
No, I did go to bed. I said I
Oh.
woke up really early this morning, and I couldn't fall back
Oh.
to sleep. So I'm a little under the. I'm not under the weather, but I'm a little tired.
Oh man,
Well-
I didn't know that, man. Well,
Yeah,
geez.
yeah, I know you
Okay.
guys are overworking me here. 8-11? Come on.
Now you're working Mondays? Come on, dude.
I do have to admit, I went to bed probably around like 10:30 or so, and then I was up at 8. That's the earliest. I mean, I'm normally not up till like 9. So, hey, good thing I woke up though, or else I
Yeah,
would have missed
honestly.
the decision. But guys, before we get into the show, the Faithful Dogs podcast, and most importantly, Network 216 is proud to be partners with Underdog Fantasy. Guys, Best Ball Mania 3 is going on right now, and I know you want a chance to win $10 million in total prize money. All you have to do is go to the Underdog Fantasy app and use code 216. Underdog Fantasy is going to double your first deposit up to $100. So, like, I deposited $10, I got $20. They match that deposit. So, great deal they have going on right now. It only costs $25 to enter Best Ball Mania 3. You get to draft your lineup in the app. And I don't know about you guys, that stands out above DraftKings and FanDuel. The opportunity to actually draft your team against other people, and you get to select the players you want, not bid. You get to select them. And they're going to start your best player every single week. You're not going to find a better daily fantasy app than Underdog Fantasy. Again, use code 216 to double your first deposit up to $100. So, gentlemen, we're going to give our overall thoughts on the Deshaun Watson situation. If you guys missed it, I did immediate reaction on the Network 216 YouTube channel. You guys are going to want to make sure you take a look at that. Subscribe to the channel, please, if you're not already, and drop a like on that video. We really appreciate you guys supporting the YouTube channel. But Zach, Jack, I want you guys to start off because I gave some thoughts this morning. Just before we get into it, do you guys think the NFL is going to appeal this decision?
No.
I don't.
No,
I don't think it would be good for them to either. Honestly, I think that the logic that Sue put in her testament is very straightforward. She kind of does reprimand both sides very heavily and give very honest criticism to both of the arguments that both of them put forward. I think that she makes very clear how the precedent lies in this particular situation. And from what we've been hearing for the past couple of weeks, the NFL was kind of posturing around 10 to 12 games. Obviously, Watson wanted 0. And so this is kind of like a middle ground. I could see them possibly maybe trying to add in a fine or add 2 more games if they really wanted to at the absolute most, but I don't see them doing anything other than that. That would be like really the big maximum amount of increase that I could see.
It's tough, man. It really is tough. Like, after sitting down and reading a 16-page document, I honestly was at the point where I didn't want to believe what I read today, So it's like, yeah, 6 games is all fun and game as a Browns fan. The quarterback we get out of Deshaun Watson, it's going to be awesome. It's something we haven't seen before, but like, we're going to get into it later. It was just tough. So
Yeah, it was tough. And I will briefly talk about something I highlighted on the video. The NFL, the reason they will not appeal this suspension, they don't want to be sued by Deshaun Watson in the NFLPA. That's what would happen. This would go to federal court, and it would open up a can of just awfulness that the NFL has been hiding for years. That's why they won't appeal this decision. The NFL released a statement basically saying they are going to determine if they were going to appeal. But like others have said, if they were going to appeal, as soon as this ruling was out, they could have had an appeal ready to go, and they didn't. So I just think that's really important, just really important. And
they gave their we're gonna do our thorough
they're gonna keep the option open.
Yeah,
they're gonna keep the option open the full 3 days, but I mean, the fact that last night the NFLPA came out and basically said we're going to accept the ruling, and that they expect the NFL to do the same, kind of makes it that the NFL would either have to immediately react and say, yeah, we're going to appeal this, or it's very clear that they're probably just going to kind of ride the wave and just let it just go through, or just at some point in the next 2 or 3 days, just say, yeah, we're going to administer this punishment as Sue Robinson requested.
Yeah. And before we're really going to dig deep into what she posted today in her 16-page findings, but before we do, Jack has a great reminder on here, guys. Make sure to support not just our show, the Faithful Dogs podcast, but the entire Network 216 crew by just following the stream and checking your Twitch Prime subscription every month. That's all you have to do, and it's free to subscribe with Prime. There's actually a crown that'll be on your screen. If you click that, it'll re-up your Prime subscription. So just want to make sure you guys know that. August 2nd, man.
It's right under Zach. It's like right under Zach's left hand over here.
A reminder, you'll want to renew your subscription.
There you go.
You'll want to renew your subscription starting tomorrow. It resets every month. Every 30 days is when Twitch resets everything. So that'll be tomorrow. So please make sure that you guys do that. We really would appreciate your support. So first off, before we really get into this, I want everyone to know that we have held our opinions back on this whole subject while we've waited to get the information. We haven't done, there's a reason why we've stayed away from the subject, because it's not fun. It's nothing no one wants to talk about, especially for a team that we do support. So I just want people to know, like, we are going to talk about this. Like I mentioned, we're going to talk about this Deshaun Watson situation, this ruling. After that, after this show tonight, we are moving on and we are talking football. Training camp, preseason, that's all we're going to talk about. Even if it means we're going around the NFL and the Browns don't have any news, we'll talk about other teams. But after this, we're giving our thoughts. We're moving on. So I want people to understand that. Respect our opinion as we would respect yours. Because, again, no one's in the wrong here with what they believe. This is a very sensitive situation. So, Jack, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Zach and then myself. Because, like I said, I talked about it a little bit earlier today. But, Jack, what are your initial thoughts on Sue Robinson's overall decision here?
I thought that it was very well done. I thought that the way that she described her thought process and her decision-making process was very thorough. She really did. The biggest thing is that she was very keen on picking up on the failures of both sides to really give an argument that completely admonished the other side and gave themselves no bad look. Because she talked about how the NFL didn't want specific things to be included and how she thought that wasn't very accurate and that didn't really make any sense. She talked about how Deshaun wanted to show himself as completely innocent and how that actually ended up making him look more guilty of things that he really didn't want to be included in the suit. There were a lot of things in this that made me think, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. There was nothing that I looked at and I said, that seems strange. That doesn't seem to make any sense. That's kind of out there. Everything seemed to make sense. And then when we got to the end and I saw that it was 6 games and she explained how she's putting it in line to something like Big Ben, to something like Ezekiel Elliott, who got similar suspensions, although Ben did appeal his down to 4, but the initial suspension was still 6 games. It made sense. And
Jack, to that, dude, I'm sorry to cut you off right here, but to that, she said, basically in spite of what she thinks the suspension should be, it's because Deshaun this is his first time basically being accused of something like this. But she did say, in spite of what I think, basically this suspension should be. To me, that's maybe she sided with the indefinite, maybe she sided with the year. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I think.
Well, I think it's also one of those things where it again, like you said, before this happened, this was his first infraction. Mm-hmm. This is the only thing that he's done and it was completely against his character from what everyone could report to. They had no issues with the law or anything before this had happened. And I think that really did help him in this case. I think a lot of things did help him. I think the fact that the NFL didn't handle this very well, the fact that the NFL's own, the way that they enforce their personal conduct policy is really dodgy. I think a lot of things kind of went in Watson's favor here. I think if there was even like one case where a player was held to the same standard, or where an owner was held to the same standard, or if any of this had happened, if there was some sort of precedent for this, we could be seeing Deshaun Watson getting put away for a lot longer than we have. So I think that 6 games is a blessing for Deshaun. I hope that he takes the chance to really look over the things that he's done and that he improves as a person.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to point out is what Daniel Wallach said on our podcast was the NFL kind of, shot themselves in the foot a little bit to say when they didn't do anything in 2021, when they just let Deshaun sit. They didn't pose any punishment then. And it kind of all came to light in the 16-page document, everything that we were told by Daniel too, like, based on the burden of proof, this is what he should probably get, blah, 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 all this stuff, man. But I don't really want to dig into like the graphic details of everything. That's just, I don't know. It makes me feel kind of gross talking about it. But yeah, having all that come out, having a federal judge who spent her career doing this saying, the NFL presented its evidence. They showed their proof of this kind of stuff. It kind of made me think a whole different like U-turn of what I've been thinking this entire time, that Watson's gonna get 0 games, 2 games, blah blah blah. I'm happy, like, as a Browns fan. The Browns fan should be lucky to say that Deshaun only got 6 games. That's kind of just how I feel. So I don't know how you guys feel about all that. I just feel lucky as a Browns fan that our quarterback only got 6 games, because we could be sitting here right now today if things were a little different under the CBA and being like, crap, we got Jacoby for a full season.
Yeah, I mean, and a big part of this is when I saw 6 games, I was like, yeah, I mean, that obviously is a win for the Browns. It's a win for, I mean, if you're rooting for the Browns to succeed, that's what you're rooting for. Reading the documents, and again, we're not gonna like dig into every detail of it, because there are some details that are just graphic and do not need to be discussed. I mean, if you guys want to read it, I've shared it on Twitter. I've shared it on Facebook. I recommend you guys read the document, 16 pages, and you can come up to a conclusion with it yourself. But Deshaun Watson was very fortunate to get 6 games today. After everything I read in that document, and basically the Judge Robinson coming to the conclusion that he committed what the NFL proved, but given the NFL's history, she couldn't in good faith issue a larger suspension. I mean, that to me, that says in itself. I mean, I was with you, Zach. I mean, I thought at one point we're gonna get 0 games, and part of me wavered. I'll be honest. There's part of me on that situation that wavered and thought, well, maybe this was a money grab, so on and so forth. But when they brought the 4 cases, it's quite clear that there was legit proof there, and just the details of all this. He clearly did, like, clearly there was that he has some issues that he has to get counseling on, which it sounds like he is. And I hope for the sake of not just the organization, but for himself as a person, that he turns his life around. But clearly there's something there that, like, he has an issue.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing.
Reality.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and judge anyone. You know what I mean? That's not how I'm going to be. I'm not going to judge a single person, but yeah, I want Deshaun to get the help he needs. I want him to get the therapy he needs. He had a thing that he liked, and he used his fame and he used his status as an NFL player to kind of prey on women. Let's just be honest here. And he just did it, dude. It was just way too many times. You can't sit here and be like, okay, it's just, it was a money grab when all this evidence came out in these 16-page documents. So I'm going to root for the Browns. I'm a Browns fan. I hope Deshaun gets the help he needs. I hope he gets back to being, a good role model in the community. So, I'm going to root for the Browns. I hope Deshaun leads us to Super Bowls. I'm going to be there and root for Deshaun as well as our quarterback moving forward. But like Tyler said, dude, I just want to see the guy get help, man. I would like to see anyone get help, no matter who it was, football player or not. So, yeah,
and this is in KFC Christian here makes a good point. Just host of Down with the Browns that you guys just saw live on the Twitch channel. Hope Watson turns his problems to God and gets right with the Lord. Completely agree. Hey, I love a great story when anyone turns their life around, and I hope the same for Watson too. I mean, this whole situation, see, she even said it's unprecedented, and it you can make the case for an unprecedented suspension, but when you bring up other rulings the NFL has had in similar cases, the games are nowhere near matching a full year suspension, and she couldn't do that. And that's kind of where that's where we're at. I mean, Jack, with some of the details to this, are you surprised that it was only 6 games? Or do you think it could have been less? Do you think it should have been more? See, this is where let it all out. Like our opinions, man. So like, do you think it should have been more or less? What are your thoughts on the overall suspension of?
No, I don't think it should have been more, and honestly, I don't think it should have been less either. Because if we just look at, because she really makes it clear. She looked at how the NFL has ruled in the past and how they're just not very consistent on this, and that they really do need to kind of establish a more direct line of how non-violent sexual cases like this are going to be managed in the future. Like the direct language she was using was things like they don't have they don't have actual, an idea of how much punishment they're going to get for an act before it happens, and how the NFL kind of changes what the punishments are going to be for things after they're done, after they hear backlash, or they actually look at the case, then they decide how much. And it's just not like that for a lot of other things in the league. Like with Ray Rice, after the Ray Rice thing, any sort of violent act caused 6 games automatically. Anything more than that was because they had multiple offenses on the same thing. Non-violent, there's just not really any precedent there. There's not really any sort of, set standard. And so she kind of just looked at that and said, well, that's kind of the reason why this whole thing has even come to me in the first place. If you guys had established an actual relationship with the NFLPA and had come to an agreement on what could be seen as a logical, middle ground to how we should manage these cases, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And so because of that, she just kind of went to the bog standard of 6 games, which Big Ben and Ezekiel, again, they got the exact same amount for the exact same kind of cases, which are non-violent sexual cases that were not criminal and were only civil cases. So I wasn't surprised at all. And could she have possibly maybe tried to push for 8 games if she wanted to maybe, just increase the amount of because there were 4 cases instead of 1 with Zeke and 2 for Big Ben? She could have, but I think she wanted to just kind of say, I'm going to put it just solely to precedent, and then the NFL can try to figure this out later on when they establish a more a more central guideline for how this should actually be handled. Because otherwise, this is going to keep happening. Whenever somebody has a similar incident to Deshaun Watson, which hopefully we don't see many of those, but if that does happen, there needs to be some sort of actual means of knowing how much punishment they should get based on established precedent, not just based off of what one judge thinks at any given point.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts really are on this. The 6 games. So when I initially saw 6 games, I'm like, that's fair. I feel like the NFL wasn't going to get a full year. We pretty much knew that going in.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Watson, I think anything less than a year for him, I really do think what's considered a win. Now, that said, after reviewing the 16 pages again, I've read this a few times now. I personally think he got extremely lucky that it was 6 game suspension. There's a lot again. I'm not, you guys can go read it for yourself. I'm not going to read the exact details because I'm just not going to do it. The details in that, and her believing the NFL's case here that he committed sexual misconduct, not a decent amount of times here.
Mm-hmm.
There's, for me, the fact that that's 6 games, he's very fortunate. And if it wasn't for the NFL screwing up with past cases of and it's even included, I want to actually use this insert that basically it talks about Judge Robinson also factored in the fact that various team owners who have been accused of similar or worse conduct were not severely punished whatsoever. If the NFL didn't screw themselves in this case, Deshaun Watson wouldn't be playing this year. I'm just going to say right now, the NFL didn't handle situations in the past of this caliber. Robert Kraft comes to mind. Daniel Schneider comes to mind, not doing much there. I mean, yeah, okay, a couple $1 million fine, whoop-de-doo for an owner. Robert Kraft getting absolutely nothing. If the NFL handled Robert Kraft differently, Deshaun Watson might be getting a year suspension right now. But because they did not handle the situation the way it needs to be handled, Deshaun Watson gets 6 games. The NFL wanted indefinite in a year. They didn't get it because of the mistakes they've made in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun, it looks like, by reading the document, was guilty of what the NFL was claiming, and the judge agreed with that. But it was not given due to the past inefficiencies of the NFL's personal conduct policy.
Yeah.
I mean, Zach, what do you think about less, more? Where are you at with this?
I mean,
6 games.
Like I said, like as a fan, it's like we got lucky, that our quarterback's only suspended for 6 games. But like, I mean, we all agree here, and I know a lot of people in the chat agree. Like, we are pumped for what we're going to get out of the talent that is Deshaun Watson at the quarterback position. Like, he's an elite quarterback that we've never seen on the Cleveland Browns before, ever. Like So I mean, with that being said, after reading that, I only read the document over once. I wanted to go over it again, but it was a lot to take in at like 3 p.m., dude. So. I read it over once, and I just really the way Sue Robinson explained it. It's because hearing what she had to say about it made me just really think about it completely different perspective. So, yeah, like you said, dude, we got lucky. Deshaun got very lucky. I think Deshaun knows, and the NFLPA knows that they basically won this with a 6-game suspension. They won, so they got lucky. It could have been way worse. And hopefully, I'm going to say it one more time. Hopefully, he gets the help he needs. Like Christian said, hopefully he gets right, and maybe this can show players in the future, because now they're going to start cracking down on things. Mm-hmm. They really are. The next guy isn't going to be lucky, dude. Now, let's hope there isn't a next time, but the next guy is not going to get lucky like that, dude.
Yeah. I mean, and that's – sorry, Jack. No, you continue.
It's just a really sensitive subject for me, dude.
There's just one thing that I want to point out is that I know that a lot of people, especially on Twitter and on Reddit and other social media websites, are very upset about it. They think that this is not enough. They think that there should be a lot more, that he should at least be gone for a year, at least be gone for 2 years, because if we're looking at it, there were 24 women, but we have to remember, Sue Robinson's a federal judge. She wasn't looking over 24 allegations. She was only looking at 4. She wasn't looking at 24. This is only 4. So I know a lot of people are upset, and I know they think that this is not enough, but we have to remember in the context, this is only looking at 4. This isn't looking at the whole case. If you want to argue that more things should have been brought up, that's on the NFL too. The NFL should have brought more things up if they thought that it was going to be relevant and help their case. They didn't. So we just have to live with what Sue Robinson came up with, and what she came up with based on what the NFL provided to her. So just a reminder, I know I've seen a lot of people bringing up 24 alleged victims and all this, and trying to use this as a way to say that that this system is broken, and perhaps it is, but in some ways you have to kind of blame the NFL for that because they put themselves in this situation. So just a heads up in case anyone was concerned with that particular aspect of this decision, is that it's not as simple as just, there were 24 and then they gave him 6 games. There's a lot of different aspects to this that need to be fleshed out to really understand.
Mm-hmm. And you made a really great point, Jack, because a big part of this is that the NFL looks like brought forth about 5 cases, and Sue Robinson actually threw out one of them because they didn't even interview the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting too. She only took the cases that thought there were actual merit to it. So I think that's something really important too, and that the NFL merited was an actual violation. I think that's the other thing that stands out a little bit on this, is that there were a lot of accusations, but there was only a few that were actually brought up to the judge.
Mm-hmm.
That part does stand out.
I want the chat to kind of, give their opinions too. I want to see how everyone's feeling after that. And people that really read the document like we did, I just want to know how people feel after today. Because, when it first came out, before everything was released, we all have our network group chat. We're 6 games, dude. Let's go, basically. hell yeah. And then the document comes out and we go, 6 games. How, dude? How did he get only 6 games? So it's just crazy. I get it. She's looking at it from the CBA perspective, from the NFL's perspective, and I think she really did do the right thing. And I don't see a way the NFL can even try to settle. If the NFL settles, they're shooting themselves in the foot, and Watson can be playing week 1.
Mm-hmm. I fit, and also if you guys caught this news, our audience caught this news last night. The NFL and Watson did engage in settlement talks. The NFL was willing to go to about 10 to 12 games. No, actually 12 games at a significant, like $8 million fine. Watson was only going to do 8 games or less. Just something to keep in mind there. There were talks, but they were never close. Never close on a deal.
Yeah.
Grant, I don't have any beers, bro. It's a Monday night. I'm sorry.
But something I did want to point out here, and I think this really stands out, and we have to talk about it. And again, I agree with you, Zach. Like, this is not something that this show, I'll be real, was not one that I love recording. This is one that I was really not looking forward to doing because, but we got to talk about it, get past it, and move on to football. But something that stood out to me from what Sue Robinson found here, and I don't know if it did to you guys. Okay, I note that this is from the Sue Robinson findings that she issued, the 16-page report. Like I said, I have it available on Twitter at T_Johnson_TJ if you guys want to take a look. This is page 14. I note that there are aggravating factors applicable to Mr. Watson, that his lack of express remorse and his tardy notice to the NFL of first filed lawsuit. As to mitigating factors, he is a first offender and had excellent reputation in his community prior to these events. He cooperated in the investigation and paid restitution. Although Mr. Watson did not play in 2021 season, the commissioner declined to put him on the administrative leave under which any games missed would have credited against any suspension later imposed. So I want to start off with the first part to that, Zach, because this is true, and this contradicts the statement that Jimmy and Dee Haslam made. And let's just say they are terrible with these statements, first off.
Well, Jimmy is.
Yeah, Jimmy. I don't think Dee Haslam was the one saying that. I think it was just Jimmy saying it.
I didn't read Jimmy and Dee's statement, though. So
I'll be more than happy to pull it up, and I'll read it for the audience if they didn't catch it.
It wasn't particularly in depth. Let's just say
it was not. But Zach, the first part of that, Deshaun Watson not showing any remorse or basically acting like he did anything wrong. What are your thoughts on that? Does he realize? Do you think that because we know that he has a problem, like it's quite clear, and we hope, like we said, he gets the counseling he needs, the help he needs, and he's able to turn his life around. Do you think he really believes he did nothing wrong here? Because Judge Robinson said that was something that really stood out.
I hope not. When I listened to the press conference, when he was like, I don't have a problem, when he said that kind of stuff, when you listen to that, you're like, all those lawsuits were still ongoing. He didn't settle on a majority of them. He was focused on clearing his name. So to me, I could look at it from that perspective as he didn't want to say anything stupid during that press conference. I get that.
I agree.
But now Sue Robinson looks at that during her investigation as this dude's saying he doesn't have a problem, when I have the evidence right here that shows that he does have a problem and he needs therapy, he needs help. So no matter what you say, basically, dude, it's gonna come back to you. Especially when you have he's living life under a microscope now. For the rest of his career in the NFL, he's living his life under a microscope now. So, but to your point, I don't know if he doesn't think he has a problem. I hope he doesn't think he doesn't have a problem. I would hope the therapy isn't just because the team's like, okay, we traded for you, you're gonna go get therapy, you're gonna go get help. I hope it's no, I want help. I know I have a problem, but to the cameras, I had to say I didn't, because at that point in time, I was focused on clearing my name. These investigations were still going. That's what I'm hoping.
Jack, do you think Deshaun really believes he doesn't have a problem here? Because it is kind of worrisome when a federal judge says that. Normally when someone does end up committing a crime or whatever, not all the time, but a good portion show remorse, I realize that I did something wrong. Do you think Deshaun really believes he did nothing wrong here? Or do you think it's just him saving face and that like Zach said during the press conference? Obviously he's going to be careful by what he says. But is it a little alarming that a federal judge goes through all this and Deshaun doesn't show any remorse or act like there's anything wrong?
Oh, so is she saying during the hearings, basically, with her?
That's what it sounds like. That's what I got from what I read. That's what I interpreted. So from what I read,
yeah, I do agree with what Zach said essentially, where he's like, I think during the press conference, it was definitely one of those things where he didn't want to. He didn't want to say something that was going to hurt his cases that were still ongoing by saying something like, "Oh yeah, I feel remorse," because then that he might think that makes him look guilty. And I think that might just be one of those things where Deshaun isn't really sure what his best course of action for saying things really is. Like, does he want to show remorse? Does that make him look guilty? Does that make him look worse than trying to say that I don't feel remorse and that he doesn't like? Obviously, I'm sure that if people came forward and were like, you really like messed a lot of people's lives up here. You've really hurt a lot of people. I'm sure that he would say like, yeah, he feels bad about that. But I think in the context of this case, he might have just been trying to do whatever he could to make himself look better. And he might have just thought that he looked more innocent, acting like he did nothing wrong. Of course, this is all just me assuming things. I don't know. I don't know what the conversations he had with Sue Robinson were like. I don't even know if those conversations happened. This is all just based off things that we are assuming. Now, I hope, kind of like what Zach said, I hope that he does feel like now that he's had a chance to really look over all this stuff, and I'm sure he's already read the deposition or it's been, kind of broken down for him. Just like that he understands that at this point, he needs to understand that he is kind of, being put under a microscope, that he needs to know that that what he did was wrong, and that at this point he's going to kind of have to really clean up his act and start to rebuild his image again, because a lot of people probably got a little disillusioned, and now we're going to need to see it even more, that he's as it changes a person, that he's understands what he did was wrong and that he needs to do better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a big part of this for me, I don't know when he's going to talk to the media again. I think we're kind of all waiting for that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see him take like remorse or some responsibility at this. You're no longer at the point where you can't do that. And if you even want people to remotely to start to even try to support you as leading this franchise forward, there's a good portion of the fan base that will not do so. Like, period. And I completely understand it. I get it. There's also that portion of the fan base. I don't know what the percentages are, but there's also that portion of the fan base that supports the Browns, always roots for the Browns, rooted for him before Watson, will root for him after Watson. It's hard to cheer for the team after all this. And what he needs to do is he needs to come out and show that, like, remorse or take just any responsibility for this, like, whatsoever. And I'm not saying that people are going to, like, support him right then. You got to somewhat start to show people that, like, okay, this occurred. Like, not going into details, but this occurred. I'm sorry. I apologize to all those affected. And like just start to move on from it. At some point, that has to happen. Like, at some point, he has to at least admit remorse to the situation. Like that has to happen, or else he's going to have a good portion of the fan base that will not support him, unfortunately.
I also think that he could possibly also take steps to moving into that direction. I know that he said that he doesn't have a problem. He doesn't have to go to things like therapy. I think that he should, publicly acknowledge that he's going to therapy. He should publicly acknowledge that he has a problem, because I think that it's way more relatable to see somebody accept that they have flaws, accept that they have problems, and to take steps to fixing that problem. I also think that he could also look into maybe making a donation or a couple of donations to some of the great women's centers that we have in Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, like the Rape Crisis Center. Just things that obviously, it by themselves don't mean anything, but in the context of, he's trying to better himself, he's trying to become a better person, he's trying to do everything the right way, that I think it could help to build his image and really show that he means what he says when he says he wants to, move past this and become a better person on the other side.
Mm-hmm. There's some good comments in the chat. Mm-hmm. If Zach, if you want to start sharing some of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
because
I just want to say,
one
like,
thoughts.
as a human being, dude, like, that's all
Mhm.
I want to see is him to just come out, admit, not admit, I personal whatever, but like, just admit that you're getting help, basically. Admit that you're going to take the steps necessary to get better, because that's what I want to see. Like, dude, completely different topics, completely unrelated, but like Delonte West, guys, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all those videos coming out of him on the streets, addicted to drugs and stuff. As a person, you hurt for him. You know what I mean? Some people look at that guy and they judge him. Me, as a person, I'm like, dude, I want that dude to get help so bad.
Yeah.
And it just keeps happening over and over again. I don't want to see a pattern with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, as a Browns fan, you don't want to see a pattern with a guy like Deshaun Watson because then he's not playing football anymore, like a Josh Gordon. So I just want to see the guy get help. I want to see him be this franchise quarterback for 10, 15 years, and I want to just eventually you can clear your name by doing that. You know what I mean? Ben Roethlisberger did it, dude. You can clear your name. So if he wants to really clear his name, he has to do it in a different direction than I think he thought, which was, I'm innocent. I didn't do this. Blah, blah, blah.
There's some, like I said, keep the comments coming. There's some good comments here. Like OC underscore DR underscore J says, if Watson admitted he has a problem and needs help, I could support and root for him, but crickets.
Yeah.
That's
And
another
a lot
one.
of people feel that way. There's so many different ways people lean right now in this. Me, my personal opinion is I'm a huge Browns fan. I'm going to root for the Browns. So that's just how I am.
And Ainsley makes a good point here. Firm believer you can support a team, but don't have to support certain players. I would 100% agree with that. And I think it's where a lot of people – now, okay, let me rephrase that. I think that's where a decent amount of people are. I'm not going to say a lot because I don't know what portion of the fan base feels which way.
And that sucks for someone like my girlfriend Ainsley here. That sucks because the person that you don't want to support is the face of your franchise now. It's the franchise quarterback. It sucks, dude, because it's like, we've always wanted a franchise quarterback on this team. Since '99, the majority of these fans are like, oh my God, when are we going to have that franchise quarterback? The jersey thing, dude. Now we get one, and this is what comes with it.
And Josh also makes a good point. Kind of going off what you said, Jack. He needs to donate some of his salary to women's centers or rape crisis centers. Yeah, I think that would be a really good gesture if he decides to do that. Whether or not he does that remains to be seen. It would definitely be a good gesture. I mean, I'm not going to read the statement the Cleveland Crisis Center put out there, but as you can imagine, was not a fan of that. And Josh also makes an interesting point. For me, Miles is the face of our franchise right now. You can make that.
I think a lot of people can say that.
Yeah.
I think I would agree.
I'm just saying the franchise quarterback. You know what I mean? The franchise quarterback. They usually are the face of your franchise.
And now that we're actually getting to the second part of that statement I read to you guys, it kind of goes back to what Daniel Wallach was telling us. If you guys missed that interview, I recommend going back and watching that interview on the Twitch channel. He talked about that 2021, they could go back and look at that for her ruling. And basically, the commissioner never put him on the exempt list. So those games, technically, she said, didn't count. It makes you wonder if he went on the exempt list, what even suspension if she would even give a suspension.
I think she would have given a suspension, but she would have then said, but because he was put on the commissioner's exempt list, though that would have been time spent last season. So it would have been, I mean, could you imagine the outlaw if that happened? That would have been the thing is that she might have said, wait, maybe we give him like a year. But then, of course, I mean, how many, or maybe she says she wants 6 games either way. So she gives him something like 25 games, 17 times served. So it's 8 games, or it's 23 with 17 times served. So it's 6 games. She could have tried to make it just so it's 6 games, no matter what. And honestly, I think people might have even been happier with that if he was suspended, or if he was given like a temporary suspension all of last year, because then at least it would have said like 23 games on the release, and then people probably would have thought, oh, he's gone for 23 games, and they would have felt better about it. But
make a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people wanted to see that. It was like a time
they did.
In either direction. Some people wanted to see time served, 0 game, big fine. Some people wanted to see time served plus a year. Some people wanted to see time served, like you said. and a 6-game suspension this year.
Yeah.
The NFL made it, like Daniel Wallach said, where you can't do that. You can't do that now. They gave him no punishment at all. They still paid the guy. You can't do that. So the NFL will mess up their own case. I'm not ever going to disagree with that. The NFL messed up their whole case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I did, since you said you hadn't had a chance to read it, and I don't know which of our audience has had a chance to read it, I am going to read the statement from Jimmy D. Haslam, and I'm going to assume this is mainly from Jimmy. So, okay. So, quote, throughout this process, Deshaun and his representatives have abided by the newly created and agreed upon process for the NFLPA and the NFL to defer to the objective Judge Sue L. Robinson to comprehensively review all information and make a fair decision. We respect Judge Robinson's decision and at the same time empathize and understand that there have been many individuals triggered throughout this process. We know Deshaun is remorseful that this situation has caused much heartache to many, and he will continue to work needed to show who he is on and off the field, and we will continue to support him. So I think you guys know my initial thought on that one.
The key word
remorseful in what way?
Yeah.
What way is he that's a serious question. If someone's in the chat and you have the answer, let me know. When has Deshaun Watson ever shown that he's remorseful in this situation? I'm asking.
And I want everyone to be clear. Like, I want everyone to be clear. We're not like hating on Deshaun Watson, dude. Like, not at all. We're really not.
I'm curious if they have discussions on this outside of public avenues where we could.
Yeah, see it. But that's not PR.
I know.
Bro.
I know. That's the thing. Is that they? Well, there's a couple of things. The Haslams failed in this entire endeavor because first off, this press release came out at 4:00. That's how long? Almost 8 hours after the suspension ruling came down. That's 8 hours. And then he throws at practice all day and didn't get a chance to read the deposition. He has him go out and start answering questions on this. And instead of, they should have had a whole thing set up, ready to go. Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, all there ready to go and start answering questions as soon as this stuff came out. This should not have been a one-paragraph press release 8 hours later. They knew the day before that this was going to happen. So the fact that this came out this late and that then it was like, okay, also, by the way, Kevin, you have to go answer all the questions. I know you haven't actually read the deposition yet, but just go out there and answer questions. Where's Andrew Berry at? Hey, where's Andrew? Like, I don't understand why this was poorly handled. Like, and plus just, they didn't really, they haven't put Watson out there to have a chance to really answer questions on whether or not he feels remorseful. So it sounds like hollow words from a guy who wasn't very well prepared for this at all, even though he had a full 24 hours to prepare for it. And I know it's difficult to do. I know it's hard to prepare something 24 hours in advance. But if you're an organization and this is the guy who's going to be leading your organization for the next 5 years, you expect, or longer, you should be able to immediately jump on something like this and try to flip it either into something that you can use to change the narrative or at least to confront the narrative head on and get a head start on moving forward.
Yeah. I just feel like people that might be tuning in for the first time think we're like Deshaun haters.
We're not Deshaun haters.
We're not. We're just giving our opinions based off the deposition today. This entire time after the trade, the Watson watch, I mean, especially me and Tyler, dude, the Watson watch literally made us tired because we spent 12 hours a day in freaking Twitter spaces, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it was a huge deal. We knew the team was moving away from Baker. We were pumped for the player we got out of Deshaun Watson. We just want to see the person Deshaun Watson get the help he needs.
And let's make something clear. Like I've stated many times, this is the one time we're going to make our feelings known about this. Like this,
it's football after this.
I'm not getting on. You're not going to see me get on Twitter. I'm not going to get on this show, and I'm not talking about the actual cases anymore. I've talked about it, and this will be it. So if you guys want to ask me questions, I'm really not. I'm not going to answer them, and that's no disrespect. It's a lot to talk about, and honestly, it's exhausting. But anyway, let's just talk about the Haslams in general. The fact that since this has begun, they have completely botched the way you're supposed to handle any situation whatsoever. You have the press conference itself where you have Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski with Watson up there fielding questions like they're in a courtroom, and then you have Jimmy and D Haslam that are somewhere doing a Zoom call.
They're on a boat.
Like living life. I mean, why in this situation, they had a long time to plan for this press conference. I need to understand why the owners of my franchise were not there answering questions in front of a media. And they still haven't, for that matter. They have Jimmy Haslam's at training camp today, signing autographs. Whoop-de-doo. Why isn't he answering questions?
Yeah.
Why? Why can someone not get in front of a camera and ask Jimmy Haslam questions, and why can't he answer them instead of hiding behind a PR guy, instead of taking a Zoom call? Like, why? That's, as a fan, that's what I want to know. Like, Tyler, I want to see my owner get in front of a mic.
We know
Jimmy's
why.
been known for having the fall guys, dude.
We know why. And it's because Jimmy doesn't know how to answer questions.
Jimmy, that too.
Jimmy, we all remember when, I forget who it was, but they brought up, hey, don't you think that people are going to be turned off by this? That there are going to be a lot of people who don't want to be season ticket members, that aren't going to want to come to games. And Jimmy's response was, yeah, but the season tickets are selling real well. So I don't know where that whole thing's coming from. Jimmy does not know how to answer questions eloquently on the fly. If he is not prepared for it, and even if he has, he'll just forget. He'll be like, wait, what? Ticket sales? The ticket sales are great.
Look at my bank account.
How far down on the wait list are you? You're like way down there. There's like at least another 2 years before you get tickets. Like,
I can relate.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's just like Jimmy just cannot answer questions very well. He just doesn't know how to actually answer it in a way that answers the question and doesn't sound disrespectful, because he just doesn't really understand how people are going to take what he says. He's just kind of out of touch. So that's why he doesn't do it, because every single time he does, he gets pooped on, and it's genuinely like required for that to happen, because the things he says are pretty terrible and out of touch. So that's why he doesn't, because he knows what's up. Yeah.
D was kicking him sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Like, shut up.
Whoa. That's not what we meant. That's not what we meant at all. That's not what we were focusing on. But no, that's why, because he knows that Kevin's way smarter. Kevin's way more eloquent. He's smart. He knows how to handle the media. Andrew knows how to handle the media. So he knows that if he just lets them handle it, they'll at least be able to answer the questions sufficiently enough that we can be like, okay, that wasn't really a good answer, but at least it doesn't sound stupid, right? Like that's the only reason, because Jimmy's just not good at answering questions.
It's just such a rough situation, because you have, there were multiple teams that wanted Watson. Like, there's no secret about it. Any team that acquired him, there was going to be this backlash. You would just think, as an organization, you would have a better plan. Like, for how, once, like, let's say this happens, once they knew the deal happened, like, you should have been formulating a plan right from there, that Jimmy was going to be up there, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski. I guess that's the part that really got me, is like, and it still does, is the fact you have Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry up there, and I believe they should have been up there at Deshaun Watson. I just feel like the owner of a franchise, when you're making this type of decision, should be someone that has to get in front of a microphone. I wish there were, again, he's an NFL owner. He pays Roger Goodell's salary. But my point is, I wish this is the thing that Judge Robinson is talking about, holding owners accountable too. I wish they were held accountable, and they'd have to get up, be forced to get in front of mics and answer questions. Because I feel like that's important too, especially with a move of this magnitude, not just player wise, but the entire situation. So, yeah, I know Jimmy doesn't. I know he doesn't know, man. I just think it's so wrong to leave Kevin Stefanski out there for the dogs to just attack him. Like today, after training camp, just to ask him these questions.
How was that? I mean, Stefanski can hold his own. Andrew Berry can hold his own. They're sophisticated men. But, like, how was that,
I thought Kevin Stefanski handled it pretty well, saying that obviously they should support Deshaun Watson, and they're very empathetic. Because a lot of people still are not really support the decision that was made today. But he really kind of just answered the same thing over and over again, and then talked a little bit about camp. That's the main about what they do.
Is that he didn't even get a chance to read the
that's the other thing too,
release.
Man. He didn't get to read it.
So they were asking him stuff about the release, and he said, "I haven't read it yet." And it's just like,
Yeah.
well, okay, that's kind of important. You should probably read that. And he's like, I'm going to read it right away after this. He just, he's the head coach of the football team. He can't really just take it like an hour. He can't take half an hour to go.
Hey guys,
go
take a
inside.
water break. I got to
Take
read
a water
16
break. I got to go
pages.
read this thing. Like, so it's unfortunate that he was put in that situation, and I know that he's able to hold himself very well in that situation. But again, it just it doesn't look good for the owners of the franchise to just not be wet. And again, it took them 8 hours to write a paragraph. One paragraph that said nothing other than
it was voice to text.
It actually was. Like, come on.
Jack, that would happen to me in college, though, but that would be because I normally was playing Xbox instead of actually writing.
Oh, God, dude.
One paragraph, that's like maybe 5 minutes of you actually thinking through all the words,
Just
right?
write a sentence, take a break, play some video games.
Yeah, write a sentence, take a water break, go to the bathroom. Okay, next sentence. Oh, I forgot what was said in the first sentence. Let's read the first. Okay, here we go. Second sentence. Dang, that was hard. I'm gonna go take a. Hold on. Maybe my match of Call of Duty's loading. Let's go. Okay.
I think Super Surge MC brings up a point. Watson was never going to tell us anything while this was all pending. I can agree. And we agree with that. But what needs and this is a good follow up. He should take the podium. I agree. This is where he needs to be remorseful. The next time he speaks, I need to see it. Or I'll be honest, it's gonna be kind of hard. I like to know that this guy's running my franchise. I need to see something, just taking any remote responsibility.
It's already to the point where this is the dude running your franchise.
No, I know.
You just gotta hope. You just gotta hope and pray. Yeah, you just gotta hope and pray that he does get help, dude, because it's obvious he needs some sort of guidance right now. I don't know what happened within that Texans organization too, where they, obviously the stories coming out where they kind of, helped him basically in a sense.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole another story, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, I know he's an adult. He can make his own decisions, but sometimes, they're still kids when they come into the league. They need help. They need guidance. They need good role models and stuff. So let's hope he gets in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. And he does bring up one more point. Isn't there one case still not settled? That is correct. There is one pending civil case as of right now.
Yeah,
I don't have any details on that.
All I know is that this girl apparently says she will not settle by any means. So I don't know what her end goal is going to be with this now. But yeah, that's all I know. I don't even know who it is. It's not Ashley Solis, right? The first one?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So, yeah.
So he's not going to answer anything until at least that one is done. Man, that's another good point.
Yeah, that's probably actually true. I don't think. Well, I've heard multiple things. I've heard that I've heard some people say that he doesn't actually want to settle that one. That he wants to take that one to court. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there's anything particular about that, or what exactly is going on with that particular case. But if there's nothing special about it, I'm sure that is actually true. That he's going to wait until that one is done because he just doesn't want to lose any leverage in that, because obviously if he's probably going to settle that case, and if he doesn't want to give any leverage to make it harder for him to do so that there is a chance that happens. But if he does actually just want to go to court for that one, he probably would just say, okay, I'm just going to come out, say I'm remorseful for the things I've done, and then move on from there, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're gonna end the show. I'm gonna read the final part that Sue Robinson has here, in case you guys haven't had a chance to read it. So, Mr. Watson is hereby suspended for 6 regular season games without pay. Although this is the most significant punishment ever imposed on an NFL player for allegations of non-violent sexual conduct, Mr. Watson's pattern of conduct is more egregious than any before reviewed by the NFL. She goes on to say, recognizing that the only discipline mentioned in the CBA is a fine or suspension, I nevertheless believe it appropriate for Mr. Watson to limit his massage therapy to club-directed sessions and club-approved massage therapists for the duration of his career, and so impose this mandate as a condition to his reinstatement. Mr. Watson is to have no adverse involvement with law enforcement, must not commit any additional violations of the policy. The parties have 3 business days to appeal this determination.
That's, yeah.
I think that, and like the most thing that stands out to me, I mean, I think it does when you're reading this, is the first bullet point. Mr. Watson's pattern of conduct is more egregious than any before reviewed by the NFL. I think that kind of stands out a little bit to me.
Yeah.
Is I mean, this is an unprecedented situation that we truly have never seen before. Like, we can try and relate it as much as we want to Ben Roethlisberger, Ezekiel Elliott. Like, we can try to do that, but the reality is it's not even close. I mean, this is something. Like I said, I hope we never have to see this again, ever.
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, it's absolutely terrible. But
I just hope that the NFL does not appeal this. That way we can get it. We can just say, okay, it's 6 games, Jack. And we can. I know they won't, but look, it's still an option. It's not 0 until it's 0. It's still a non-zero. It means that it can happen. But I wish they just come out and said we accept Sue Robinson's suggestion, and Deshaun has been suspended for 6 games, and then we can move on and we won't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely get it, dude. And like I said, we all just want to be able to put this to bed, which is basically what we're doing tonight. Is we got our thoughts out on the situation, and we're moving on. If there is an appeal by the NFL, it has to be in by Thursday. So just something we talked about it at the beginning of the show, because we wanted to kind of just get that out of the way. We don't think the NFL is going to appeal this decision. There's just a lot of they might be getting backlash, but it's going to open up a whole can of worms on them if they do appeal this, because Watson's team will absolutely sue the NFL, and then you just have a mess that truly will never end. If we thought this was never ending,
yeah,
imagine if that happens.
That
so I don't think we're going to see an appeal. I also just want to take a moment here for anyone that's a victim of sexual assault in this ruling today. It came out. I know this is probably hard, and you believe he deserves a lengthier suspension. Like I said, I thought it was pretty low too after I read things, but sorry for everything you've experienced, and just know that just because we support the Browns doesn't mean we don't understand what sexual assault victims have gone through. I think that's really important to say.
Absolutely.
That needs to be said. So apologize for everything you guys have had to deal with, especially during this whole thing, because it's the
trauma, you know,
we can't
really
imagine.
Does.
I mean,
I can't imagine it, but you know, I know it's a thing. You know, hearing other people's stories can bring up your past experiences. So we really do, from our show, I know the rest of Network 216, we really do feel for you, and seriously, I know it's tough. So
yeah, and we might even have we've talked about it, so we'll just briefly talk about it here. We might have a possible charity giveaway that we'll have at some point that could be involving giving away money going to Cleveland Crisis Center, Rape Crisis Center, other potential women's shelters as well. So just something to keep in mind, guys, because we just think that'd be something really awesome to do. We're working on the details. We'll see if we can make it happen, because we want to really give you guys an opportunity to potentially bid on a Browns item that's pretty sweet. So just keep that in mind. And guys, we got some content coming for you tonight. We're not done. The channel is not done, so stick around at 9:30. Grant P and Matty G betting show is going to be again live tonight. They're going to be with Mikey Coinsnatch is going to be joining the show. So you guys are going to want to make sure you tune into that. That's at 9:30 live on the Twitch channel. I know you guys want some locks for the day. I know you guys want some locks for tomorrow. So tune into that at 9:30 on the Twitch channel. Also, the YouTube short videos. I want to real quick just promote those. So every single day, what we're trying to do is have a YouTube video out for you guys on the Network 216 YouTube channel. It's free to subscribe to the channel. We ask you, everyone, please take the time to do that and drop likes on the video. I had a quick video on Deshaun Watson today, immediate reaction. Again, that was at 8:20 this morning. So obviously I've had time to read a statement and reflect if you guys had an opportunity to tune into that. But Jacob Roach from the Barking Brown Show is going to have the short video with you tomorrow with Blake Weiner, lawyer, is going to they're going to talk about the Deshaun Watson situation a little bit, the rulings on that. Jacob is reading the document to give his thoughts on it, and I'm going to be honest, there's going to be no sugarcoat like we did tonight. There's no sugarcoating this. So just want to throw that out there for you guys. Tune in. And on that YouTube channel, daily, not just Browns content, Cavaliers, Ohio State Buckeyes, Columbus Blue Jackets, Cleveland Guardians, and, of course, Cleveland Browns football. So please, guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It would mean a lot to us. It's just Network 216, free to subscribe. So we would appreciate it if you guys did that. Thank you, guys, everyone that tuned in tonight. This was, guys, I think we can agree with this. This is probably the most exhausting show we've done. From
it wasn't easy.
Emotionally.
Yeah, emotional and mentally but I want to thank every single person that tuned in tonight, and thank you guys for all your support and for supporting the Network 216 channel. Down with the Browns did a great job in their debut for the network. So,
yes, sir.
Again, stick around, 9:30, Grant P, Matty G betting show. Going to want to make sure you tune in for that. We are the Faithful Dogs podcast. We will talk to you all next week. Thank you for tuning in, and go Browns.
Vote for Brownie. Put him on the 50.